Okay, thank you, Bill. So with this, I'm just going to briefly introduce our keynote speaker for this morning. Matthias Drilling is here with his talk, Refugee Camps, Exploring Urban Planning's Potential to Challenge the Managerial Humanitarian Order. Matthias Drilling is the head of the Research Unit for Spatial Planning and Urban Development at the Work School, the University of Applied Science in Northwestern Switzerland in Basel. He studied geography, economics in Fribourg and Accra, and later completed his studies in spatial planning at ETH. His work is grounded on qualitative methods and life world analysis. He has been, alongside his academic work, also really active in planning and in practice. He served as the director of the Swiss-Philippine Human Rights Organization and as an advisor to national and international foundations. He consults on projects in practice as much as he does academic work. And hence he easily straddles this sort of difference between what's academic research and implemented in practice. We don't see that very often today, so it's exciting to hear. I'm really looking forward to what Matthias is going to share with us. This exchange between academia and the professional world is a really important, I think, an important conversation to be had, and a continuously evolving one. But Matthias is one of those people who actually facilitates that exchange. Currently, he combines the themes of urban development and life challenges. Particularly, he's examining the impact of materialized structures and planning elements on refugees and people living in extreme poverty. I had various opportunities in the past to collaborate with Matthias on projects, ranging from participation to sort of examining urban morphology. It's a really great honor to be able to introduce it. So please welcome Matthias. Yours.
So, good morning. Thank you very much for the introduction, or Fabian, as we call the cover this before. You mentioned a lot of expectations. I hope I will meet one or two of them. Thanks for inviting me that family, as you call it. That makes it much more easier. I have one remark before I'm starting. This is collaborative work that I'm doing. So one of my nearest colleagues, Linda Chibaki, she is doing that work together with me. At the moment, she is collecting new fundings for the next step of the research, and will much better than me. So we decided to help her Vienna, and she goes to the funding agencies. And the second remark is, I slightly corrected the title. I'm talking about refugee camps and camp-like settings. You will see later on, when I present you the UNHCR typology of that, they also differ, because it's quite difficult for some of the politicians to talk in a European context about camps. They more like terms like accommodations, shared rooms, things like that. So I enlarged it to camps and camp-like settings. And before I delve into the details, I just want to position myself to give you the reason why I'm discussing or why I'm linking this urban planning on the one side and the humanitarian order on the other side. Sometimes there's a close relationship, but a lot of different professional understandings what it means. And the role of science is put an eye on something which might become critical to enrich the discussion and reflection about that. So that is the reason why I'm constructing such a contradiction between urban planning and the humanitarian model. I have a couple of slides that I want to present you. So sorry for my, I think, strong Swiss German accent. You can follow that on the slides to understand what I mean. So my positioning over the last 20 years, I've been engaged in neighborhood development work. My particular interest has been in situating the neighborhood as an intervention level of government and establishing its connection to larger urban form. From a macro perspective, I've devised planning authorities involved in transforming former industrial areas into working neighborhoods, such as here you can see in Luxembourg. It's a roughly 21-hectare area, mainly used before by industry and commerce, but it is optimally located to the main station, so the city administration starts to transform this into an effective neighborhood in the coming years. They expect approximately 4,000 to 6,000 residents and about 5,000 jobs. The principles of this neighborhood development is primarily community-oriented. Encounters between people, job opportunities close to the residential areas, and a large number of boulevards and places to linger are intended to turn this now Woolwich into a kind of a city within the city. I did this in a couple more projects, like here in Biel, in Vienna, where I was involved in a project that tried to tunneling a section of a highway, and that makes it possible to bridge two neighborhoods who has been separated before into one neighborhood. Similar, you see it on that side of Bern, where a new neighborhood is emerging on around 50,000 square meters, prioritizing high density and a maximum of ecological sustainability. And on the other side, a central focus on the newcoming people. They expect around 2,000 to 3,000 new residents, and the locals, those who are living in the neighborhoods and their needs. And to give you the last impression of that, what I did in years as a scientist who accompanied and advised politicians in the planning and urban development departments on a micro level, I contributed to numerous place-making processes, whether through urban or social work or artistic interventions. That is for me very important because, well, I'm a trained geographer and spatial planner, but right now I'm working in the Department of Social Work. So I'm training social workers in community work and try to give them the idea that social work is not just oriented towards individuals. There's a macro perspective on that, and you can realize it in quite very, it's typically small, but very efficient and very transformative projects with the people itself. Why I'm talking about those before I'm starting with a camp and camp-like setting topic. When I summarize the experience and compare them for today's implementation, I would say that the neighborhood has undergone an extraordinary shift in significance over the past few decades. I want to show this shift more theoretically. Few decades ago, neighborhoods were administrative units that could be realized in a standardized form anywhere in the world, regardless of their location. We know this from theory. Broad activity, the radius, or even Garden City. The planning scale was oriented toward the entire city, and neighborhoods were in a functional relationship to this. Neighborhoods, however, became a standard space similar to a container that had to exhibit certain characteristics in order to have the desired qualities. However, with this support, the neighborhood spontaneously became a center and exclusion. We can observe this over the past few decades with increasingly clear consequences even in recent years. I brought you one of the examples. I'm sure you all know this Refugee in Missouri State, which stands for the understanding of the pitfalls of comprehensive planning following the functional city model. It was built in 33. Oh, sorry. It was built in. It was built in the 50 seconds, 2,800 apartments in 33 11-story buildings, and available for African Americans as well as the white. That was the reason why they called it green and Negro. Interestingly, there was an idea for social mixing. Elevators, for example, stopped only every third floor to encourage neighborhood interactions in the stairways. And there was no social infrastructure. So the idea was we can expect that it would emerge through residents' engagement. But after a few years, those middle class who could afford it, they moved out. And the settlement experience increased vandalism and neglect. In 1972, the settlement was demolished, and it marks the end of the functional urban planning. This is not past. The next slide shows you what about France cities, what happens there. Those developments in the French cities demonstrate that the urban heritage can only be eradicated through intervention with high explosive power due to the simultaneous process of social, economic, and symbolic exclusion taking place. The broad plan that I present to you, the industrial article there, is shaping the suburbs of French industrial cities today. Approximately 600 neighborhoods have already been formed, affecting over 5 million residents. And new settlements are being constructed, distinguishing by their social and economic diversity, departing from the standardized housing model. Instead, they embody characteristics of local autonomy, education, employment, social support, and community engagement. Since the beginning of the new millennium, the role of urban planning has completely reversed. I mentioned that. Urban planning today claims to design compact, connected, and vibrant, and the local situation is the core area of the future. This current state of affairs is undoubtedly a result of the communicative turn in planning disciplines. With the opening of planning to stakeholder groups, the theme of lobbying for and influencing of specific target groups has also opened up. This turn has resulted in multi-level governance. Planning today finds embedded in an extensive stakeholder landscape, which is an expression of a participatory culture. So, and this marks also the shift from functional city towards this inclusive, integrated, and from the bottom-up developed neighborhood city, or city of neighborhoods. The planning level has gradually shifted from the macro city to the meso, the neighborhoods in many places. Urban development, I would say today, is primarily an organized development emerging from small-scale cells. And thus, it becomes inclusive by blending functions, compressing them together, and granting humans the leading role in its ongoing evolution. Theoretically speaking, neighborhood development has grown from a technical tool that serves the urban form to something that I would describe as a normative societal vision and a political interventions. However, with this opening of planning towards inclusiveness and diversity, there's also a simultaneous exclusion of groups that do not have influential representational power in urban development. And here I refer to refugees. If we look at urban landscapes in Europe, we find, on the one hand, pronounced placemaking processes aiming to capitalize on the local community's assets, inspirations, and potentials, with the intention to create spaces that improve urban vitality and promote people's health, happiness, and well-being. On the other side, we observe accommodations for refugees close to or amidst the same neighborhoods that correspond to the spirit of the functional city, places of containment under the control of the humanitarian resettlement process. Those camps, shelters, or accommodations are tightly controlled, allowing entry and exit only under certain conditions and during certain times. The camps themselves are organized according to the needs of the residents. The grid pattern facilitates the efficient supply routes. The camp is divided into district blocks, or vertically or horizontally in floors and rooms. Groups are assigned to families, individuals, and in some places there are floor supervisors who enforce house rules and de-escalate situations. Decentralized administrative offices organize the libraries, moved within the shelters, if they happen at all, are typically informal. So the humanitarian order, which includes politically motivated standardizations and normalizations, creates a parallel structure to the current trend of development activities at the neighborhoods and places levels in the city. This humanitarian logic is based on the idea of successful rapid transition from reception structures to integration structures, or as Doug Saunders wrote it, to arrive structures in the cities. But camps and camp settings, they persist longer than expected. It's quite interesting from a scientific standpoint that there are no definite statistics on the average length of staying shelters. UNHCR reported in 2004 an average of 17 years and compared it to 9 years in 1993. But this was quickly refuted and argued the situations are still different. If we rely on some few studies on individual camps, the range can extend up to 7 years in Palestine or even generations, like in Sub-Saharan Jordan. This leads from a standpoint of critical camp studies to campization of refugees and the reliance on centralized forms among refugees, sometimes mitigated by NGOs, IOs, and volunteers. And all that in extraterritorial zones. Our colleague Ursch calls this long-term living in camps as a politics of temporariness. Being trapped in reception structures, they shape them into what are here terms made cities. The transformation into social, cultural, and even economic stratified city-like places but lacking essential urban qualities. Even the European Commission recognizes the phenomenon of the disconnect between reception of the value structures and as invisible situation. Invisible because there's no measurement. It is not measured in statistics. It cannot be protested by residents. And it is not taken into account by the academic disciplines whose fundamental task is to prevent social spatial segregation. Hence, and by space thus work into district state control zones in an environment without vitality, despite their closeness to the urban fabric and its options for integration. Whenever possible, refugees need emergency practice for cities to pursue future opportunities independently. And it is not uncommon for them to end up in illegality without social rights or in human. This closes the benefits of spatial integration, proximity, and opportunities that neighborhood reliant structures offers. Moreover, it hinders urban planning for the idea of dismantling social and spatial segregation. When the state imagined refugees as members of the labor force, architecture for refugees is oriented towards cities. When the state imagined refugees as members of the citizen spirit, architecture is oriented toward housing. When the state cannot imagine refugees as either citizens or workers, architecture is oriented toward camps. So the question is, how can urban planning work in this humanitarian organization in order to influence towards activity-oriented development? I have two cases that I want to present. The first one comes from camp, and the second one from this reception center in Europe. We investigated as part of the study on the reception of urban space by people seeking asylum who were housed in the reception center located in the heart of the city. During workshops with the refugees itself, which we conducted as part of the study, refugees were asked about the place in the city they knew and visited. There were two very interesting findings. The first one, this is the picture where this center is located in the heart of the city on the other side, and map. We drafted together with a participant of the workshop. So despite having the opportunity to spend time in urban space on a daily basis, the places they frequented were minimal. People cited experienced discrimination in public spaces as well as fear of unfamiliar structures, including signs and information they could read as reason for this limited exploration. And second, reception centers became safe havens for these individuals. This is a contradiction that leads to a self-perpetuating logic, reinforcing process of exclusion. Findings highlight quite a very complex dynamic in the urban environment for refugees, where perceived safety and familiarity often drive opportunities for exploration and integration. If we look for examples that show us as planners how to overcome this autonomy of humanitarian order and development oriented processes, we can find ideas in Jordan, which was built to host Syrian refugees for a few months in 2012, is now home of more than 80,000 Syrian refugees, almost 20,000 families. In Satari camp, my colleague Gilda Chubaki was able to show how a social organization of the camp has developed over the years from a standardized emergency structure geared towards a city-like structure. first informally, and then supported by the humanitarian organizations. The camp today has quite an interesting infrastructure. 29 students, where about 20,000 student-age children are enrolled. 27 community centers who provide psychosocial support and recreational activities. 2 hospitals with 55 beds and 9 healthcare centers and a delivery unit. Step by step, and thanks to the camp manager, and despite the fact that the connections with the host community outside of the camp are weak, and the camp tends to limit refugees' right of freedoms, so that the activities between the camp and the locals are likely strict. The Satari camp administration nowadays provides employment assistance by facilitating work permits, advertising job vacancies, and providing camp residents with training opportunities. And there's a new link to students and health centers around the camps who benefit the refugees as well as the neighboring communities. We have taken up this idea of self-certification, and in an international consortium, we developed a module for UNHCR that we think meets better the needs of refugees for prolonging among themselves for more than permanently restored tanks or containers. This is our project that we did last year. The UNHCR asked for a solution in the outside region, which will force millions of people from this due to climate change and the resulting wildlife conflicts. And our guiding principle was to recognize the permanence of the camp and to give the refugees options to organize themselves spatially. The result is a prototype of home that can accommodate a formally social structure in a camp with the maximum adaptability. It's stakeable, is repurposed as living space or a business, and it is easily transportable from one place to another place. You can see it in this hexagon that is drafted in the middle of the slide. In this way, dynamic structures can be created within the camp. Social capital has a chance to grow. You can easily build with those hexagons shopping streets that can be tested with real effort, or at the end, groups of the same origin or interests can form a cluster together. But the humanitarian investment are a city-like structure, still within an extraterritorial solution. So I come to the Swiss example, where this might be easier to bridge because these centers are within the urban environment. So when we bring this idea to Europe and its climate politics, we find that the conditions are often even more favorable. But the politics of temporariness persists. Up to 5 or 6 years in Europe, refugees living in the same structures of communal accommodations, including very strict in and outgoing regime. Many of the shelters are situated within the neighborhoods, providing refugees with multiple opportunities to integrate into host communities. From this perspective, urban planning influence can be exerted when planning processes are initiated, like here in the canton of Accra, in the city of Fribourg. We signed this opportunity where a new facility for approximately 300 asylum seekers is being built within its existing neighborhood structure. As a scientific team, We influence the process by conducting a social spatial study. So instead of focusing from the first stage of the building itself, we started from the urban environment. Our goal was to analyze the new construction within the city's overall perimeter and to highlight the possibilities of formal and informal learning encounters and pathways to explore to employment. This resulted in recommendations. First, to decide the filter as an incubator for new development activities. And second, not confine the new areas, state and civil society services for refugees locally within the accommodation, but instead to offer them at various locations throughout the neighborhood. This approach fosters inclusive structures and facilitates neighborhood contacts, which can lead into processes of inclusion. These are 6 principles that we designed for the architects of the building who were in charge of that. It was very interesting discussion, especially about balconies. Is it really necessary in the refugee accommodation to offer balconies? Those architects who are doing plans or designs like that, no, it's a question of cost. But in their case, it was a question of security. What happens if refugees stand out of the balcony? If they have depressions or something like that, which can end up in suicide activities from the balcony out. It was a very interesting discussion, and always what I experienced in those transformative processes or projects, always a reflection. There's no solution at the beginning. There's a reflection from the different knowledge standpoints, science knowledge, professional knowledge, and if it works well, lifeword knowledge from the people itself. And then it comes to a solution. I've heard you 2 examples. It seems to be positive in the right way. I'm not sure. Because of that, I want to sum up what I presented. Once again, I want to start with a slide. The common concept that history books effectively at the age of reason, the 18th century at the age of enlightenment, and the 19th century at the age of revolutions. The best name to describe the 20th century is the age of chaos. That's right. The global displacement hit another record with more than 100 million people forcibly displaced worldwide as a result of wars, conflicts, or even seriously disturbing public orders. Those people are affected in cities around the world. So it is the theme that governs the central role in the conceptualization of the relationship between political morphologies and the urban form. And that is why I presented today here in these rooms. It requires a new understanding of the urban spatial philosophy as a political entity. And it requires urban planning, refugee camps, these accidental cities created by self-organization and spontaneity on extraterritorial zones to be taken into account in our professional actions. But if planning exclusively focused on repairing emergency structure and make camps and camp settings more tolerable, then it misses its goals. Long-lasting emergency structures cannot present mechanisms of execution. So I want to present my last slide, which is a draft, because I'm together with him and others in the way of how to think this relationship of camps and the city for humanitarian order and urban planning. So, the issue of displacement, master positioning and urban planning has repeatedly formulated by critical camp studies. Urban planning has social origins and is based on laws and is aiming to eliminate spatial inequalities and strengthen life chances for all. Refugees are, as we have seen, trapped in emergency and reception structures, often for years. Thus, urban planning must design the groundwork for transition from emergency to reception to arrival to welcome and inclusion, diversity, and equity. In this sense, urban planning opens up to powerless groups, and I mentioned it earlier as a communicative term that opens the stakeholder landscape. We need to interpret this communicative term more as a humanistic term. Not simply considering transition into our society, but basically that the center of action also means to take a critical stand toward current refugee policy. But there, from my experience, urban planning poses a unique possibility because it is urban planning that guides the policy. It's architects who design buildings, including refugee accommodations, and landscape architects that conceptualize public spaces. Therefore, one of the next tasks should be to design a prototype of a camp or camp setting from the outset as a neighborhood with places of sociability and shelters as temporary hosts, and then consult with humanitarian organizations responsible for camps and shelters management to determine which principles are easy to implement and which are more convenient and what. Many thanks.
It works. Okay. We have most questions. I can remember this. Thank you, Matthias, for the presentation. Thank you so much. So, questions, everybody. Thank you very much, Matthias, for the presentation. It's really very fascinating to see the section between social work, thinking at the macro level, not just focusing on the individual. And I did enjoy the presentation, but I have a question. You did talk about the next level in the last part, where you would be also consulting with the managers to find out principles that are quite important to them. But I'm going to ask, we get it to a level where we will also have a bit of inclusivity, where we include these people who live in that space instead of planning, like the youth center approach, where they don't get to contribute to how they want their form of living to look like. Because I think that will also be solved some of these problems, where you pointed out one of the problems in that the perceived safety that they face in exploring that place, there could actually be some contribution on how the safety would look like. Are we getting to that point where we get to have them infused into this plan of their living spaces?
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much for this. Is it working? Otherwise, it will. Yeah. Maybe it was actually now this is a very contribution. So I would say that on the one side there's a very strong regime of communities. They do not have We did a questionnaire in one of the shelters in the city, and there was only one question. Do you think that you can finish this program online? 60 up to 70%. There was another question which went more to the student desk, and we figured out that out of those more than 20% who answered, 30% of them showed us we feel that we have some professional feeling. So this enhances which makes on one side those reception structures are very different for we have, I would say, we have working for refugees where the whole refugee is they needed as refugees. That with a lot of there was we have a lot of refugees who they have their own issues. So at the end, I would say, and I'm totally with you, I would say we need a better differentiation between several things, understanding of integration. It's much more important to the feeling that they are workful in society, even that they move away, even that they lost family. It's from the second day on an option, so just take it. When I mentioned when you arrive in a center, it's just name, paper, age, and so on and so on. Put you into this function of different reception stages. Yeah. But finish that. This is as a researcher at the University of Applied Sciences, every problem like that can only be solved by a triangulation of three knowledge stocks. I mentioned it before. That comes from knowledge science. Stock one is scientific knowledge, stock two is professional knowledge, stock three is lifeword experience knowledge, and this is the people. Yeah. And that must come simultaneously, not we figure out a scientific idea and then we disseminate it to the professionals and we ask, and the professionals ask for anything the people. That's not the solution. That's not the idea of transformational research and processes. Did I catch your answer? Yeah. Can I make a question? Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Beautiful, great opportunity. Yeah. I'm a market designer and I probably failed to their language. And again, say again is that when you're proposing hands or new design, that again I see that the certain amount of urban practice the new design another structure that grows and itself that itself is nothing to do type condition. So what is your strategy to last longer is when, for instance, now it looks fantastic, it looks working, everything is clean and comfortable, but or at least one generation later, if people lose and they're going to wipe out, or at least compared to the last period.
I don't know whether I really catch the question or comment. And we need to discuss a little bit about the definition of forms. Because you mentioned you are an architect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was trained at ETH as a spatial planner, we didn't use these forms. We were talking about a lot about infrastructures, which symbols and build bridges and things like that. So, and when I'm answering from a social work perspective or community work, what should we ask this question? Community work is always open. There is no definite stadium where everything is processed. So if we bridge the humanitarian model and developing activities, there might evolve something new. We can label it as a form, as a future form. So people are they are designing something, and this is what I observe is that we neglect this functional language. We put everything together and start from a small scale and have a huge variety of individual decision makers. And something happens. But then we need to discover that might be what is the role of architecture, because urban forms materialized by architects last generations. Yeah. That is what I mean. But maybe you have a better answer. Then it's for you, definitely.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, John. It seems to me that the refugee camps were a temporary fix, and then now they're becoming a permanent place for these people to live. People don't want to live there permanently. They're seeking refuge from somewhere else that they want to return to. So on the bigger picture, the design, we've seen the pictures of people in the tents and the mud and everything. This is much better than that. And in the bigger picture, for them to go back to their home, how is that? Probably not by this. How is it?
Absolutely right. That is why I mentioned in the last few minutes that we need to focus on the daily life situation, and maybe this hexagon and all of those architectural ideas make it better, but it mitigates the situation. The bigger picture is we need to position ourselves in this politics of temporariness and in this politics of asylum, refugee, migration as well. or otherwise it becomes a little bit naive, or we just serve for this politics. Yeah, so you're absolutely right. That was the reason why I spoke about the micro, meso, and macro level. That they must be linked, even if you design shelter. Or that was the idea to give those architects in the city of Accra the inspiration that it can be a refugee accommodation for 300 people, but it can also be an incubation for neighborhood development. But that means open up, start to be organized by the people from both sides, giving spaces for empowerment. So things where exchange can happen between different sorts of people, to leave this typology of refugee and resident. Sorry, but refugee, this is the description of the situation. It is not a characteristic of the
Thank you, Simon. Thanks for the presentation there. This last point you just made about refugees as kind of what I was interested in. You showed one of the early slides, you showed food, which wasn't a refugee situation. It was well, it probably was a displacement of slum or a new type of thing, which would be kind of similar to what I was thinking of, which is if you have an internal population, they call it homeless, so, alternate living. If you have an external group, we call it refugees. And yet, I think that in your planning principles, it seems to me that there are a lot of the same ideas that would work for condition. But I wonder if you could maybe quickly discuss the differences and similarities between these two populations, and also have you had any the same research dealt with more of an internal?
Yeah, I found this example the landing was a segregation of American and white people, but there was that decided not to go for that. So that's very interesting. And when I read some of that thinking can celebrated, actually celebrated. That might also be very interesting, influential direction, but it is stress. Yeah.
Thank you.
I leave that as comment. It's quite very helpful to listen to that what you contribute.
Thank you for your presentation. You mentioned Zahari as a case study for in some ways. The fitting the scale of Zahari over 80,000 of the attendance game, and considering that station, these are ways to accept the scale. What methodologies do you think in the earlier stages of refugee displacement and development, especially considering here that the refugees encountered through the displacement and that's sort of
Yeah. So I remember is helpful because we had totally on Humanitarian, who was the manager, the woman of relations. So nowadays, I think it will be the very strict regime, the military. It's not this influx of permitted violence, which is I think we need to overcome those personal network decisions. That's the first point. I think we need definitely we need a stronger understanding of this reaching to an extraordinary zone outside under another regime, and this was described by in Americans. Really knowledge. So what the sociology we started studying was, and that was really interesting. You can put people like in a camp, like prisoners. You can give them a space of about 10 square meters, and you cannot take any concern about their religion, but nevertheless, people start to organize that space, and this is very interesting. Yeah. So even under those conditions, we are powerful the people itself. There's a huge potential of giving the human beings the possibility to do that. Horizontally or vertically. We have in Europe much more vertical communications than horizontal, like cancer. That is what we want to strengthen in our next funding application. Look at that, take it as an inspiring example, and have a look on what people are doing. But solving the problem of camp as a segregated area, this is not on the people. That's on the politicians. This is once again, Meso and Mark.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question before the coffee break. Thank you very much. Presentation is really struck by several things you showed us. My first comment would be, meditating on good, I would. In some ways, especially within this presentation and context of this presentation, that it was ultimately, I think, very well meaning, designed according to the latest styles, but it had nonetheless. And that led me to think about the banlieue outside of Paris. They are also, in many ways, camps. And they're also both, they were enormous. Then I was very struck by one of your last slides when you showed us the 300-person accommodation in the Swiss Canada. And I thought what a wonderful environment was being designed, because it was very welcoming, very outgoing, really was manageable in scale. Because it was so small, it enabled interaction, not only within that space, but amongst the people immediately surrounding, which I think is very, very important. But then, and I thought, well, this is really great. This really, to me, seems a way to move people away from being refugees to residents, which is, I think, one of the fundamental problems that I guess in the world. But then I was overwhelmed by that second to last graph that you showed, where you showed the scale of the problem of refugees, starting from the beginning of the 20th century. Now we have more than 100 million. So what do we do? So my question is, what can we do when we know the solution is small scale, the problems beyond imagination, scale and scope? I don't know if you want to answer that.
I cannot answer on that. Well, it goes to the question of the relevance of national state for it. Is it one word learn from ecological sustainable discussions. We are in work. So my take home message from that, what you and you as a last commented said is there's a lot of similarity between this movie in your police example, the camps, and so many other examples. France, the wonders. So there's a structural thing behind this, always having those extraterritorial areas. We can go further. We can say, okay, camps is like a psychiatry. Camp is like a hospital, like a dementia village, all of that. So that's very interesting that we can put a lot of those phenomena together to make the argumentation stronger. But then we need to ask, who has the power to decide which is intraordinary and which is extraordinary, which is inclusive and which is exclusive. And then I would, for my point, I would start a discussion about the role of urban planning architecture in fulfilling political visions or asking for their own vision. That comes to a professional discussion. I think that might be very true because it covers a lot of different architects in different fields. Thank you for that.
So, what comes next? Next week in the program, we have our talking service. And our talking service will be our first physical confrontation with an ACE social space. And what I mean by that is all the trainings are in straight rows, and we want to get so, the purpose of the talking circle is basically you guys to get to know each other. So, pick a room that best fits your research area. Each of the rooms is one of the themes of the conference. Go in there, introduce yourself, say who you are, the kind of work you do, and that's the feedback we'd like for us to get to know each other and be talking. And in those rooms, they'll be chaired by a wonderful group of emerging scholars. Can you emerging scholars please stand up? We'll give them a round of applause. It would be very important for us to have emerging voices at the front of the room that we all guide the conversation and making sure that we all conceptually and temporally behave. Right now, we're going to grab our coffee and good writing and before we do what we want. So thank you very much. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you. Ready by 44, which you have. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, 25.
It's But you know, okay, yeah, but they're also all designed on space plan. Yeah, exactly right. But then, yeah. It's been. Looks like. That is. Very good. It's very good. Yeah.
That's why I did a PhD. Really? Yeah, no, at least you're doing something useful. But yeah, just demon, you know, talk to people like we got that thread sending to us.
Coffee, Matthias?
Oh, sure. Oh, yes, of course. Outside. So. Yeah. Yeah, I have. Good relax. Yeah. Just why I said, you're.
Yeah, actually, very good. Yeah, you should be able to find me to the.
Wow, right. It's very.